everybody, what's up? Welcome back to your friendly neighborhood podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it. Josh and Jason here tonight, and we're going to talk Spider-Man. Not one particular movie, but just Spider-Man movies, comics in general. It's around that time. Spider-Man No Way Home is almost out. Technically, Spider-Man from 2002 is kind of a Thanksgiving movie, and we're recording this around Thanksgiving, so it all works out.
And that movie came out in 2002, dude. It's almost a 20-year anniversary of the release of the very first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, dude, I'm realizing I'm old. I mean, you guys always pick on me for being old. Well, at least Eric does. But I didn't realize next year is 20 years, and we get the whole No Way Home. Maybe we'll see some Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in this movie. We don't know.
At this point, it's just kind of like they got to show up. Andrew Garfield's been very coy about all of it, but I mean, they can't talk about this shit. We know how Marvel works. I just watched an interview with Haley Steinfeld, who's playing Hawkeye in the new series, and she said when she got the part,
behind all these secret gates and underground parking and up crazy back elevators. I mean, it was like full lockdown mode. I was like, this is crazy.
Marvel does not fuck around. It is like Avengers hideout to get into Marvel.
Marvel is S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
They are S.H.I.E.L.D.
Kevin Feige is fucking
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury.
There you go. Somebody get that man an eye patch.
Get this man a shield.
Now we're talking about other movies.
Well, I mean, that should be said from the get-go. I mean, and we are very VHS files started as nostalgia for the movies we loved as kids, the Goonies, shit like that. But of course, we grew up watching Spider-Man cartoons and the old Spider-Man TV shows and Spider-Man TV movies. And, it should be said, much like the Halloween episode we did, Jason and I are gigantic Spider-Man fans, and that comes from being gigantic Venom fans. And if Eric were here, unfortunately, he's not. He's celebrating with his family on the holiday. But, if he were here, Spider-Man's his favorite hero as well. So we have a lot of common, nostalgia for this character. And, there's no better time to talk about him than when he's hot. The trailers are out. The movie's going to come out soon. So let's talk about some Spider-Man a little bit.
Yeah. And the one thing we won't do, because there's tons of that, we're not going to do any speculation of what's going to really happen in the No Way Home thing, because if you want that, there's a million other things to watch right now. I mean, people are they're literally zooming in on parts of the movie, trying to figure out if this character was edited out and everything. And the cool thing, let's just be surprised. Let's go back to when we first saw this movie, when you got just a cut and dry trailer. You didn't know who was going to be in it and what to expect.
True.
And I'm getting to the point, I don't want to see any more TV spots. I don't want to rewatch the trailer anymore. I just want December to get here, and I want to watch the new Spider-Man.
I think Hollywood kind of needs to follow suit in the Ghostbusters Afterlife sort of thing. And I know you haven't seen it yet, and I did this past weekend. And from someone who Ghostbusters is just as important to me as something like Spider-Man is. And
love some Ghostbusters.
Went and saw Ghostbusters this weekend. The trailer did not spoil anything for me. It was really not even anything like what the plot of the movie actually is. So follow in the footsteps of Ghostbusters Afterlife. Don't give your whole movie away in the trailer. People will be happier. I promise.
And that's what I'm reading a lot of. People are so mad. Like, if the other two Spider-Man are in the movie, why edit them out? They're trying to give you something to go like you used to. Mm-hmm. I remember, like you said, you got one trailer for a movie back in the 80s and 90s. I remember when Batman came out, you had the one trailer and they talked about it on MTV and everywhere else.
Yeah.
But now everybody gets pissed when they don't see the people in the trailer. I'm like, that's the whole point of going to go see the movie, people. Mm-hmm. I want to be surprised. I want to see a character that the trailer gave me nothing about. And then you see them come out and you're jumping out of your fucking seat, or you got tears rolling down because you were so excited. And that's where I think people are just getting away from that. And they just go enjoy the movie. Wait for it.
Yeah.
It's only a few weeks away.
savor it when you get it, man. It's just one of those things. It's like, and that was one thing that was exciting about these movies when they came out. We you know, at the time when the Spider-Man 2002 came out, I was not really aware of Sam Raimi and who he was and what he had directed and who he was in the Hollywood world. I was just super excited that a fucking Spider-Man movie was coming to the theaters. Yeah. And, you know, that is one thing that's always been something of social commentary, is like, who's playing these characters? Who would be the right actors to play these characters? Yeah. And obviously, you know, we age, we get older. So do these movies, and the characters, or the actors who played these characters in these movies, that will age with these movies as they go on. So definitely. That's something I kind of want to get into in talking about these movies tonight. Is we should say we primarily are focusing on the Raimi trilogy here tonight. That is the thing I've seen the most. That's the thing I was able to watch for doing this podcast. And I got a little bit into The Amazing Spider-Man, didn't get to watch Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I've watched all the recent Spider-Man pretty recently, so we can talk briefly on those if we want to. But primarily, we're talking about the Raimi trilogy.
The original trilogy.
Yes. And, you know, it was a lot like Batman when Batman was first announced, and people were talking about how Michael Keaton was going to be Batman and Jack Nicholson is the Joker. And it seems like there's always this controversy around comic book movies and who they're casting for these heroes. And I remember that was a thing with these movies, was who are they going to get to play Spider-Man?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I remember back in the day, I remember people just talking about Michael Keaton's going to be Batman. Mr. Mom is Batman.
Yep.
And then now today, with all the Batman movies you have, what does everybody say? Michael Keaton's my Batman.
That's right.
And I mean, I'm like, there you go. So
it even spills over into the Nolan trilogy for Batman. It was, you know, I didn't really jump on the bandwagon when that one started with Batman Begins. I kind of came to it a little later, but then when The Dark Knight was announced, you know, Heath Ledger's playing the Joker. That indie actor guy, I don't know. He's no Joker.
A Knight's Tale guy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that guy is going to be the Joker. And then what does everybody say?
He's the best.
Joker.
He
won an Academy Award for it.
Yep.
I mean, after he died, so rest in peace.
Yes.
Sorry about that. People just need to stop hopping on this thing of like, oh my God, this is horrible from what all they've done. I mean, I know we're getting way off the Spider-Man thing, but even we got a new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson coming out, and people are saying the Twilight guy, but this guy has made some good movies after that. He is a decent actor.
Yes. And, you know, these movies even have a little bit of that nostalgia tie to them, where, you know, recently we had talked about Halloween 3 in our Halloween First to Worst episode. I'll link to that up here. You know, how we kind of it was the redheaded stepchild that we pushed away. We didn't want anything to do with Halloween 3 because it didn't have anything to do with Michael Myers and all of that jazz. I kind of feel like we were put in the same boat with Amazing Spider-Man when they recast with Andrew Garfield and started a brand new story, started the whole thing over. I remember being very distraught over the fact that they were already rebooting Spider-Man.
What, and was it not even 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a very short period of time between between Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man. Not even 10 years. Yeah. Spider-Man 3, 2007, Amazing Spider-Man 2012. So 6 years, somewhere around there, 6 or 7 years.
2012, in 10 years, you had two Spider-Man, two separate sets of movies started. Because 2002, 2012.
So I will go ahead.
Now we have our third.
Right. And I will go ahead and say, like, the Amazing Spider-Man movies came with that baggage for me. I was a very big fan of Sam Raimi's trilogy. I wanted that trilogy to continue. Do I have problems with where that trilogy ended? Absolutely, I do.
I think most of the people in the world do, especially if you're Venom fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like me.
We will get into that coming up, but we're not going to start there because that could lead into a very deep, dark conversation.
Hollywood, if you're watching, we have, if you want to do like a Raimi like re-edit of part 3, we have ideas.
We're making our stance as future screenwriters. We have ideas, people. We want our ideas to be on film.
Yeah.
To be honest with what they're doing with the Spider-Verse and the multiverse and all of this that they're doing in the MCU now, it's a possibility. I mean, never say never.
And the reason we're getting into that is because we had the animated movie Into the Spider-Verse,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened in that.
Yep.
And then they're talking about it tying into other movies because Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man. They loan him out basically to the MCU. And next thing you know, then we got all of our shows happening with WandaVision and Loki and this multiverse thing happening, which we saw in the trailer. So you're like, I mean, could we get Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, maybe the animated Spider-Man showing up? We don't know. Could Peter Porker show up? I don't know.
I hope so. I so hope so.
I want the Spider-Ham.
I
Dude,
fucking
to see
love me some
Spider-Ham
Spider-Ham.
show up
My name is Peter Porker.
would be so awesome.
But I mean, we should talk about, that sort of stuff. Like, Spider-Man in the comics is a vast, vast landscape of possibilities. They have done so many different storylines, so many different versions of Spider-Man, and there's all kinds of different ways you can go with this. And they've done such a great job of, taking comic books and making them live action. It's like when you watch these movies now, you're watching a comic book on screen. Mm-hmm. And that's really where it's going with all this multiverse stuff. And if you've read comics, if you're familiar with comic books, you know that, you can start reading one comic in the Spider-Man line, and that story will continue in the Hawkeye line. And then Hawkeye will cross over into Iron Man. And they knew what they were doing from the get-go here. And, and it's so just, the fact that they're able to take that and go, oh, we're going to do that with these movies now. We're going to pull from Sam Raimi's trilogy. We're going to pull from Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man and throw it all in here together. It potentially could be a giant mess. There's always the potential for that.
Yeah, we've already had 2 of those at least.
Right.
In the Spider-Man movies were too many people in movies.
Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest, as much as people want this character and that character, and we need all of this stuff to happen. Do we? Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? We've seen where oversaturating your movie can take you within this franchise. And honestly, like, it starts from the get-go with the Sam Raimi trilogy, because there's an awful lot of characters they introduce in this first movie. And the potential to go all kinds of different places. Do you remember when this movie came out? Do you remember seeing it? Do you remember how excited you were when you saw it?
Oh, yeah. I was living in Panama City. It was one of those back in the day, no reserved seating in the theaters there. You had to go wait in line. Oh, yeah. And it was get off work, go home, change clothes, and go stand in line. And you were in a long line. And I remember just waiting. Dude, I mean, like, chewing my fingers. I mean, I love Sam Raimi because I love, like, the Evil Dead series, Army of Darkness, Darkman, all those movies. And I'm like, this guy's doing a Spider-Man movie? I'm like, how's this going to work? I mean, he's a horror action guy kind of sense, but more horror, comedy horror, which we get some of that in Spider-Man 2.
Oh, for sure we do.
Great scenes. That's one of my favorite scenes out of all 3 of his movies. But, I mean, I was just waiting for Ash to show up as a doctor in there.
Groovy.
Well, he kind of does. Sort of. Kind of. Sort of.
I think I saw it 2 or 3 times in the theater. Easily.
Yeah, I don't remember. I had to have gone to the theater to see it, but I don't remember the experience. But, I do remember even back then, 2002, all the speculation about who was going to play Spider-Man. And then when they cast Tobey Maguire, I don't think he had really done a ton of stuff that was just nothing really mainstream at that point. I think he had done like Cider House Rules and like Wonder Boys, movies like that.
Was Pleasantville before or after this?
Pleasantville, I think, might have been before. I'm not sure. The main reason I'm bringing this up is because I remember a lot of talk about Wes Bentley as Peter Parker, the kid from American Beauty with the video camera. Oh, yeah. And now he's on that show Yellowstone. Yeah. I mean, he didn't really end up in the limelight. I remember he was a big up and coming star, especially after American Beauty in '99. And he was like top of the list for Spider-Man. And I was like, oh, I think he might be good. I mean, he sort of looks like Peter Parker, emo Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3.
I was say, he would have been perfect for Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. But yeah, Tobey Maguire had done Pleasantville just before this in '98. He did Cider House Rules in '99, Wonder Boys in 2000. So he was coming up as more indie sort of stuff. He had a small part in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and I love him in that.
Hot damn! I never rode in a convertible before.
Is that right? Well, I guess you're about ready then, aren't you?
Were you friends?
Why did you stop here? Me and Josh love that movie too. Josh got me into Fear and Loathing, and that's one of my favorite movies now.
But how do we, we saw Spider-Man back then, and how do we feel about it? Obviously, we liked it a lot, but do you remember what your reaction was to this? What you thought about it after you saw it?
Oh, I was totally ecstatic. I mean, me growing up my whole life, I mean, I've been in the comic book since I was a kid. I get to see Spider-Man swing through the city on the big screen. I get to see the suit. They'll make the suit, the wrestling part, all this kind of stuff, and the progression. You get to see Aunt May and Uncle Ben and Norman Osborn and MJ, and you're like, oh my God, I finally get to see this.
They even give us Flash Thompson in this movie.
Flash Thompson,
a young, very, very young Joe Manganiello is Flash Thompson.
And where does he go?
Movie.
But you know what? I'm going to say this, and he's still my favorite Flash Thompson. I don't like the ones in the new MCU. I don't like, because that is not comic book accurate Flash Thompson. Sorry.
And I have my feelings on that as well. I love the actor that plays Flash Thompson in the new movies.
I think he's good.
For that character, I don't think he's the right fit. I'll be completely honest. I watched Amazing Spider-Man most of it last night.
And I do like him.
I like Flash in that movie. And, I don't want to give too much away right here at the beginning, but I have different feelings about the Amazing Spider-Man now.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, do we have a change of heart?
We'll find out in a little while.
But I mean, because again, Flash, we know the story of the childhood bully, blah blah blah. But later on, he becomes Agent Venom. So that's what I'm looking at. Me being a Venom fan, the guy that they have now can never be Flash Thompson, Agent Venom.
I wouldn't say never. I mean,
no, if he is, I'm totally upset about it. So no, you're fucking with my Venom characters, and I just don't think that's good casting.
I remember being very happy with seeing this the first time. I mean, yeah, we're coming from a childhood where the only Spider-Man we saw was in the cartoons or the 70s TV show and the 70s TV movie, where, you can't do a whole lot with a live action character like they can in 2002. So, I mean, we're really getting into the age where they're actually able to do these things. They're able to depict what we see in comic books in the movies now, with CGI and the way it was developing now. As I touched on a little earlier, it's aged a little bit now. Watching these movies now,
you go back. 2002 did age. I think Part 2 holds up a lot better as far as the CGI and the look.
Yeah, and I'll say even as a story, and I don't think this is uncommon. I think most people probably regard it this way, but I think Spider-Man 2 is a much better movie than the first one.
I mean, per the consensus, for the longest time, it was the perfect superhero movie. And this is pre-Marvel and even pre-MCU movies, but even then, a lot of times, and critics and comic book fans they go back and compare these movies to Spider-Man 2. How does it rate against Spider-Man 2?
Yeah,
the story, the look, there's some great acting in that movie. A lot of ups and downs, emotion, great story, all that stuff in one movie.
Yeah.
And they tap into the Spider-Man No More story. They did a great job.
Yeah. Well, and even in saying that, I still think Spider-Man 2 has some issues. I think it's got some pacing issues. Some of the acting is not great all these years later. But I think one thing that the first Spider-Man kind of suffered from a little bit was it felt a lot like Tim Burton's Batman in a lot of ways.
Is because of Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman's score.
Danny Elfman's score makes it feel like there's an overlay of Batman over top of Spider-Man. because I love Danny Elfman. Dude, who doesn't love Danny Elfman? Scores everything he's ever done for any movie. But there's some definite times with like the trumpet music and the horns. You're like, God, just 3 or 4 note changes, and that's the freaking theme from Batman.
Yeah, I mean, the opening title sequence is a big, like, I remember turning the movie on the other day. Jenny and I watched it, and yeah, I was like, wow, this score sounds a lot like the Batman score. And even the credit sequence with the spider stuff and how it comes in, and very comic book feel to it, but still, like, it's different than Batman, but it feels a lot the same. Then and now, how do we feel about Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane?
I think I liked her in part 1. Part 2, okay. By part 3, I'm over it. Her acting in the movies. Part 1, I thought she was great. Redhead, and back then I thought Kirsten Dunst was super hot. And in the comic books, Mary Jane is super hot.
Yeah.
I mean, every guy who loves Spider-Man wanted to date or marry a redhead at that point, and for her to call him Tiger.
Go get him, Tiger.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what you want. So when I see Kirsten Dunst in this movie, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I thought they did great casting in it. As far as her acting, it's okay. It's a comic book movie, so that's where we got to take this. And it's an early 2000s comic. We're not talking about MCU quality super drama with a little bit of comedy.
Well, I mean, I will say it feels like there's a lot of drama in all these movies.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about the way her acting in these 3 films. It starts great, it slowly tapers off, but I also think even though she's the main part of the story, that's his focus, Spider-Man, through all 3 movies, her importance to me just keeps dropping through the whole trilogy. So
yeah, I mean, I remember being very excited by her being cast as Mary Jane, and I remember liking her in the part whenever this first came out. Watching it now, and you know, I've been a big defender of her over the years. I would always say that you can't touch Raimi's trilogy. It's always going to be my favorite. We'll see if that's changed by the end of this episode, but I do have issues with her now. Her acting in these movies is very just like like it's very, you know, flamboyant, and she's putting it on a lot in these movies, especially in this first movie. The first movie feels a lot like a comic book movie. I mean, it takes comic book beats for sure.
Oh, and that's why I liked it. Like I said, it was like watching what you had read. That's how it felt. I mean, Sam Raimi did a great job of from page to screen and comic book page to screen. And that's why I love the movie. Like I said, I mean, you got your characters. I mean, even Norman Osborn, played by Willem Dafoe, which that man can play any damn character.
He's honestly the best part of the first movie. I mean,
dude, and I'm looking forward to him showing up in No Way Home.
Yeah,
dude, I want to see some. I miss Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
I miss that man. I loved him in Boondock Saints. Don't get me started about that movie too. But and all the other films he's ever done. And DC, take note, cast that man as Old Man Joker because you're missing out.
Yeah.
So
you gotta
let him be the Joker fighting old Batman Batfleck if you're going to keep Ben Affleck in the DC universe.
Well, you know, we got Michael Keaton Batman coming back up in the Flashpoint movie, so you never know. You might get some old Joker with some Willem Dafoe. Don't count it out this day and age. If the internet wants it enough, they're gonna fucking get it.
There you go. Yeah, I'm writing a petition right now. Let's get 5,000 signatures. It doesn't matter. Hollywood does what they want. But yeah, I mean, to finally see that, like I said, all these characters come to life. You know, I mean, I had problems. That's my problem with this movie was the Green Goblin outfit. Because I mean, back in the comic book days, it was like a rubber type mask. It moved with his face. It had facial expression. I can understand in 2002 maybe CGI not up to core, but man, you could have done probably some really awesome, you know, practical makeup effects. Because makeup effects by then, I mean, Tom Savini was fantabulous in getting all these great movies at this point. I really think they could have done more of a prosthetic type Green Goblin mask instead of just the shield. But I do like the shield. But that was, if you were talking about watching the movie the first time and walking away, that was the one thing in 2002. I was like, man, I think they could have done a better job with the Green Goblin.
Yeah, I will say Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn is what's working the best here. Yeah.
What do you want?
To
say what you won't, to do what you can't, to remove those in your way.
Perfect.
Yeah, I remember not caring for the Green Goblin outfit, but I noticed watching it this time, and I don't know if this is something they've done to different releases over the years, or if it was like this in the movies and I never noticed it before. But I've noticed a lot when he's framed in shots, you'll see his face and it'll be the green, and then the part that goes back, kind of like the xenomorph head sort of style.
Here we talking about xenomorphs again.
But it has like a purple hue to it, and he always had the purple like Santa hat that he wore as the Green Goblin. You know, like he was green and purple in the comics. And I noticed a lot of this like purple hue to his suit. So it was mainly green, but when he was in the shadows, it reflected a lot of purple. And I thought that was pretty cool. And watching it this time, I can see what they were trying to do there. But yeah, I mean, it didn't look like classic Green Goblin. I think if they do an updated Green Goblin in the newer movies, it'd probably be a lot better.
I actually enjoyed the parts when he's talking and he flips the yellow eyes up.
Yeah.
You see his face like a little bit through, like you see his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Willem Dafoe is a great actor, and you just see him snarling with that teeth, like, when he's talking to you, you know, like this. And you can see the expression in his eye. He actually looks, I think I get more emotion out of with the eyes up and seeing his mouth through the little opening there than I do with it all closed.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and thank God Sam Raimi actually used him in the close-up shots of that, because you can tell it is Willem Dafoe with the mask on.
Oh God, yeah.
And most days, you know, and nowadays, most of the time, you're going to get people that are having this mask on. It's just a stunt man in the suit. Yeah. And
the actor's like, I don't want to be in that damn thing for 15 hours today. I want to see how good you did your homework. Out of the 3, which one was the highest grossing?
I feel like part 3 probably grossed higher because there was a lot of excitement around it.
You're correct. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Josh wins.
It's one of those things where, like, it's like now, I mean, the more movies you release in a series, the higher the box office will usually go, the more excitement there is. And I remember the fact that fucking Venom was going to be in Spider-Man 3 was so fucking exciting. And that was the hype that surrounded that movie. And people flocked in droves to the fucking theater to see that movie.
And Sam Raimi did not want him in the movie. He wanted Ben Kingsley's Vulture as one of the other villains in it. I could have dug with that. I have my ideas about how we could have done better with the Sam Raimi trilogy. Yeah, we have these conversations, and that's one reason why you guys get to see us on the VHS files here, because of me and Josh having hours-long conversations on the phone about how these movies could have been different. And the one movie we go back to the most is Spider-Man 3.
Before we get into 3, I kind of want to touch on 2 a little bit, because 2...
let's talk about the other ones. We'll get to Hollywood's... I'm waiting for the phone to start ringing while we're putting that out. When they go, those guys are right, man. We need to go back and do some... We're going to remake it all over again.
And you know, the first one is, you know, I walked out of the theater happy. I had some minor complaints about certain things, but overall, great. I have a Spider-Man movie. This is the best thing in the fucking world. And then, so it was instant just anticipation for Spider-Man 2. And then knowing and finding out, oh, Doc Ock's going to be the villain. This is going to be fucking great. Who's going to play Doc Ock? I remember for a long time, we were like, you know who'd be a good Dr. Octopus? Stephen King.
Stephen, if you think about it, yes.
He looks just like especially back in 2000, 2004 or whatever. Like
big glasses.
Yeah, like he looks just like Otto Octavius would have looked in the comics then.
Just give him a bowl haircut. That's all he needed was the bowl haircut. He was done.
You know, we got Alfred Molina, and I think he's great as Doc Ock.
I know why I love this damn movie, and a lot of it has to do with Alfred Molina's character and him. Dude, he's a great dude. He carries that torn doctor between wanting to help humanity, but his genius, and then of course the AI of the tentacles and stuff like that, the inner turmoil with him fighting. I mean, there's even a scene where he's talking. This is after he escapes from the hospital, and he's talking. He looks, and then they turn, and he looks totally different, like split personality, and he does it so good.
And that's really kind of like that is sort of the main theme with a lot of the villains in Spider-Man's universe. Is it's this split personality, and one half of his brain is good, one half of his brain is thinking bad, and you see that with Willem Dafoe and Norman Osborn, and then you get it here with Alfred Molina. We also get that in the third movie. We'll get to it. It's always these conflicted characters that could be good, but they're bad.
Well, it's funny, in the first two movies, his main villains are the two people he looked up to.
Yeah.
I mean, he loved Norman Osborn for his genius and everything he was doing at Oscorp. Would have loved to work there, but like I said, he wanted to do it on his own, make his own way. Totally dumbfounded when he gets to meet Otto Octavius, because he idolized that guy and ends up being his villain. I mean, even through the comic books, that's two of his main villains through the comic book series. Doc Ock and Green Goblin. I mean, Green Goblin is Spider-Man's Joker to the Batman. I mean, later, I think Venom kind of took that away from Green Goblin, even though Green Goblin's always been there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that's his original, but I was like, I think Venom kind of took the Goblin and said, here, you can
I mean, so much so that in recent years, they've kind of crossed Green Goblin over into the Carnage and Venom territory, and
we got Red
Goblin. So,
I mean, that's the thing, like I said, I like about the Doc Ock character. The interaction with him and his wife at the beginning of the movie before they do the experiment and everything. And he loves his wife.
Yeah.
That man, I mean, it, the way he just talks to her, looks at her. And then you think when the accident happens in the lab, that's a definite Sam Raimi Evil Dead thing, when the glass is flying at her face and you see it. You don't get to see it go in, but what happens.
Yeah.
And you got between that and then the tentacles taking over and him realizing, like you said, he had mentioned it while he was doing it, the power of the sun in my hands. Again, that's genius is hard to control, especially when you're that smart.
Right.
And it drives you to do things that you think are great and are not, aka Tony Stark Iron Man. That's how we got Ultron.
AKA The Fly, which is a movie we talked about recently, linked up here. Go check it out.
But I'm just saying, sometimes you think you're doing a great thing, but you're not. You're making things worse.
Yeah.
Steve Rogers said that how many times? Iron Man in MCU movies.
But the scene where he officially becomes Doc Ock is so fucking Evil Dead, it's not even funny.
Dude, I rewound that twice.
Yeah,
because I mean, I remember that scene, and then I was like, I'll watch it. Okay, let's watch it again. Because it's Evil Dead, but a lot of Army of Darkness.
Yeah,
right there, and man, we get the super close ups with the angle turn screens.
Yep, I love
total Evil Dead Army of Darkness.
I love the homage to the chainsaw. Whenever that chainsaw is on screen, I was like, I see what you're doing there, and I like it.
Dude, I remember seeing that movie for the first time. And you're like trying to figure out what's going on, and you've seen everything. And I know you did, because you love the Evil Dead Army of Darkness film.
Honestly, that's the thing. I wasn't really too up to par on Evil Dead at this point, so I don't think I would have made that connection watching the movie when I originally saw it. But watching it now and seeing Evil Dead as many times as I have, for sure.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, all of it. Like I said, the framing of the shot, I love it. He always does the zoom in where angle turns like this up in your face, and then the girl getting drugged across the floor, and her fingernails digging up the tile as she's getting drugged in the pure darkness. And then when the guy's pinned against the wall, and then it's like you get the immediate chainsaw.
Yeah.
Total Ash moment right there.
But this movie also does the job of setting up a lot of secondary characters again. We got a lot of that in the first movie. You get the introduction to Kirk Connors in this movie, who eventually becomes the Lizard.
Another guy he looks up to becomes a villain.
Yep. And then you've also got the introduction of J. Jonah James's son. What's his name? Is he Jonah Jr.? Jonah Jr.
I think he's like a third or a fourth or something like that. I can't hold on. Yeah, he's a third. But the thing about him, and a lot of people don't realize, that's Man-Wolf in the comics.
They've done a lot of groundwork here, and that's the stuff that's really impressive and kind of sets the archetype for this to be a great superhero movie. It's introducing stuff in the background that if you're not a comic book fan, you're not really playing into. But if you are a comic book fan, you're like, I know where they're going here. Part 3 is where they lost it. They did such a good job of setting up these characters. And if they would have done it the right way, we could quite possibly still be seeing Spider-Man movies from Sam Raimi today.
Well, no, we wouldn't have just Spider-Man because the original plan was that, and then spinoffs into Venom, and then Carnage. They had it all laid out with Raimi at the helm doing these movies, and Spider-Man 3 fucked it up.
And honestly, I think this is where the internet started to come into play a lot and started to kind of ruin some movies for people. We are big Venom fans. There's no ifs, ands, or buts there. We would love to see Venom in a movie and see it done right. Has it happened yet? Jury's still kind of out on that. But to announce the fact that you're going to put Venom in a movie for people who are fans of that character and do the unforgivable act of putting him in this movie for 15 fucking minutes is ridiculous.
Not only that, they didn't even get the suit right.
I can forgive the suit, and
I'm not even forgiving it in the Tom Hardy movies. Somebody just do the fucking suit the way it's supposed to be.
Honestly, I would take Spider-Man 3 Venom suit over the Tom Hardy one any day of the week.
Nah, I don't know about that.
It actually has the fucking spider emblem on it.
That's the thing. But my problem with Topher Grace, Mr. Eric from the 70s show, which that's a casting that I was like, that's not going to be good. And I was correct.
I disagree with you.
I don't like him as Eddie Brock.
I think he is a better Eddie Brock than Tom Hardy, and I'll die on that hill.
I don't know. I still think Tom Hardy's a better Eddie Brock.
I think they and we're not going to get into the Venom movies because that's a whole different story.
We're going to be here. This is going to be a 6-hour VHS files. People sit the fuck down, get you a plate of food and something to drink. We're going to be here a while.
I feel like the character of Eddie Brock is more like the character of Eddie Brock from the comics in Spider-Man 3. He may not look the part, but he has that just like I'm better than everybody sort of feel. I feel like Topher Grace did what he could with the part he had in that. And watching it now, I don't think he's the reason this movie is bad. I don't think he's a bad Eddie Brock.
No, I would say I don't hate him. I still like my Tom Hardy Eddie Brock better. Now, like I said, I have problems with these Venom movies when we won't get that far into there. But my problem is the one thing I do like about those movies is they made him look more like Venom from the comics, because in the comics, he's fucking huge. He's not the same size as Spider-Man. Dude, he's like 4 foot taller than Spider-Man, and he's covered in muscles. All they did was just Topher Grace and just put the black suit on him. Maybe put a little padding under it to make him look bulked up.
They beefed up the suit on him a bit.
Yeah, that's what I said. They put some muscle padding under it. That's about it. But that's where I had problems with it. And his overall look with the way of the face and when he's Venom. Now, there's a shot in that movie when they're at the end with the Sandman fight going on and he's talking to Spider-Man. The close-up shot where you can see the tentacles of the suit moving on his face. Mm-hmm. That's a great shot.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
I like the partial Venom face because he's got the sharp teeth. Like half of his teeth got points on them. Mm-hmm. The crawling suit on his face. I was like, that would have been better. I would have liked to have seen more of that. I just think if they would have bulked him up a little bit and just give me a white Spider-Man emblem, please. That's all I want, people. Hollywood, listen. And that's what all of us Venom people want. We just want a white Spider-Man logo on Venom, please. I
actually take more issue with the black suit Spider-Man in this movie than I do with the way they did Venom. Because
Black Suit Spider-Man is one of my favorite Spider-Man.
Black Suit Spider-Man is great, and I feel like it would have worked much better with just the smooth suit.
Yes.
The thing is we're talking about technical shit here. I don't know if that would have worked too well for the CGI and everything they had to do back then.
Yeah.
You have to have texture to that suit to make it look good, or else I think we would probably really, really be complaining that it looks cartoony.
Maybe so. And I know what they were trying to get. They were trying to make Venom is just the alternate Spider-Man. Like
right.
If you were to put them, you have regular Spider-Man, you have negative Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did, basically. Let's just turn the suit black because it makes him look evil. And we'll just do it that way. And that's what they were going with. And then when Eddie gets it, it's still kind of the same thing. So all it did was they just took the suit and made it bigger and made Eddie look like Venom. The one thing I do like about it is that they stuck to the comics with the bell tower scene and how Eddie finds the suit. I was ecstatic about that when I first saw the movie. I mean, the
trailer hype for this movie was, I mean, that's why this movie made the money it did. The fucking trailer hype is where this movie just lost it on everybody. Like, you gave us that little hint of Venom in the trailer, and it was like, oh shit, going to see this movie. And it's just so sad that it's such a letdown when you get there.
Even though I went to the theater and saw it 3 times.
I mean,
I remember that.
I honestly think we were trying to force ourselves into thinking it was a good movie when it wasn't.
I want to like this movie. It's got Venom in it. I want to like it. And you're like force feeding it in your mouth. Like, I'm gonna eat all the Subway sandwich. I should only eat 6 inches of it. But no,
there's good things here. But let's talk about a couple of the bad things here.
Well, hey, before we go to the bad things, I want since we're talking about some okay things, a lot of people had a problems with this, but I thought was awesome. Is the transformation of Flint Marko into Sandman. When he falls into the pit, the CGI and the sand transformation in that, like when he turns into Sandman with the disappearing face, where he's getting blown away into the sand and then him becoming Sandman. That is, dude, that's great.
It was great then. It doesn't hold up too well now.
But I'm going from what I saw then, dude. That was, I mean, we're comparing 2007 to 2021 now on the shit we see in MCU movies.
Yeah.
But back then, dude, you're just like, holy shit, that looks real. Like it looks like sand.
Yeah.
And that, I love that. I had that in my notes too, because that's one of the scenes in that movie that just got me. And it's kind of emotional too, because like the reason he's a bad guy is he's got a sick daughter. He's trying to take care of her. Again, a tormented person trying to do good, but is bad. And it's just, dude, I feel bad for Sandman through the whole movie because that's the only reason he's doing it.
I do. Here's the thing. Does Sandman even need to be in this movie?
Well, see, this is the thing. I think you could have had Sandman, and that's what Sam Raimi wanted. He wanted Sandman, I think, as the primary thing, but then he also wanted to close out Harry's story. And then they were talking about bringing the Vulture in at the end of this movie or something like that, and then having him in part 4. Sam Raimi had no ideas of wanting Venom in these movies. That was Sony.
The internet was like, we want Venom. We want Venom. See, people, it ruins movies sometimes when you just bitch about wanting something. Yeah. You get shit like this.
Yeah, that shit happens. But yeah, well, let's move on to what Josh was talking about. Some really bad things.
I don't like James Franco in this movie. I don't like the Harry storyline. I don't need it. I understand what they did and why it's important in the end of the movie because Spider-Man needs help.
Everybody needs help sometimes, Peter. Even Spider-Man.
But it's not satisfying, and the whole torment over his dad's death, it's cleaned up very poorly with the butler.
The blade that pierced his body came from his glider.
It's like, bitch, you couldn't have said that a year ago?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I could have got over it. Like, oh, damn, my dad fucked up. He was a crazed Green Goblin guy. He got killed. Spider-Man had nothing to do with it. He was trying to save us from a guy that had split personalities trying to kill everybody with pumpkin bombs.
Right. So. We get the introduction of Gwen Stacy in this movie. Played by a young Bryce Dallas Howard. Don't like her at all.
I don't like her. I just like to look at her. That's it. Even though I prefer her as a redhead in real life.
I think her being put in this movie is forced, much like I think Sandman is forced into this movie. I don't think, this is one thing I wanted to ask you. I don't know if you know or not, but were Eddie Brock and Gwen Stacy a thing in the comics at any point, or is this just something they manufactured for this movie? Because in the
comic books, Gwen Stacy died a long time ago, dude. Yeah. We're talking way back in the Spider-Man. We didn't get like Eddie and Venom stuff until like the late 80s.
Yeah. So he, like, I believe Gwen Stacy was like the first love interest, then he moved on to Mary Jane. So like they're doing this.
Gwen Stacy first and then Mary Jane.
So they're doing this all out of order. So there you go. Like you like, I like the introduction of Eddie Brock here. And this is where I'm going to begin where these movies fucked up. Okay. Spider-Man 2, we've already talked about how they did a great job of introducing characters that are going to play big parts moving forward in these stories. Kurt Connors. You could have started to develop Kurt Connors a little bit more in Spider-Man 2, or even give us what you gave us in Spider-Man 2. He's a big part of what moves Peter along in that movie. You also introduce Jonah Jameson's son as the astronaut. So, why didn't Spider-Man 2 end with Jonah Jameson's son going off into space?
Yeah.
And then part 3 starts with a crash, much like the beginning of the Venom film.
Yeah.
We've got distraught J. Jonah Jameson's son coming back from space and brings a symbiote back with him. I hate that the symbiote in Spider-Man 3 just falls out of space and there's no explanation for it.
Yeah, they had a meteor shower going on. This just happened to fall to Earth that day.
When you had the perfect story setup starting in the second movie.
Yeah, and they did that in the 90s Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the symbiote came in. J. Jonah Jameson's son went to space. He brought it back with him.
Now, if we want to get really technical, I could be offended that they didn't go and do the whole Secret Wars thing and introduce the black suit the way they should have, but that's
one day we're going to get Secret Wars.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, and it needs to happen quick. It's one of the best stories Marvel ever told. So
I think it might be possible in the next few years, but we'll see.
I think it's kind of what they're going through. Didn't the Russo brothers throw that out there? Is that would be a story they would come back for?
Yeah.
To set up Secret Wars.
But, the structure of the story, it seems, and I'm sure this was the case, that Spider-Man 3 was rushed into production. I'm sure the script was rushed, and they just had to cram these characters in the best they could. Okay, I'm not a big fan of the Sandman storyline here, but let's just say, for fuck's sake, make Sandman your main character. Develop Kurt Connors, or make Kurt Connors your villain in part 3. They already set him up in the second one. Why'd you need to bring a whole brand new character in with Sandman? You could have went into the Kurt Connors storyline.
Why waste the whole character? I mean, you had him there, like you said, you had Sandman there, and the way they did Sandman was tie him into Uncle Ben getting killed.
Which is not canon.
No, but it's comic books. How many times have everybody's origin been redone?
And that's the thing, that just feels so lazy writing, man. It's like, oh, we need a way to get him into this movie. Well, let's retcon him into Uncle Ben's death. It's really sloppy and doesn't work for me.
I do like, it was named Thomas Hayden Church.
Uh-huh.
He looks like Sandman from the comic books.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I will give the shirt, everything. When he goes back to that his apartment to see his daughter and he puts the shirt on, I'm like, oh shit, He's Sandman.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about Thomas Hayden Church. I'm not complaining about the design of the character. All that stuff is great. I mean, I don't have a problem with any of that. I just don't feel like it was the right villain or the right story to put in this movie, when you'd already set up some stuff that was solid, something that could have worked. And your opinions of Topher Grace aside, I love bringing Eddie Brock into this movie. I love bringing him in as a foe to Peter Parker. That whole storyline of him, manufacturing pictures to try and get one up over Peter and get into the Daily Bugle, that stuff works great. And whether you like Topher Grace or not, that's the story that leads us to Venom eventually. And
because in the comics, he was writing a story about, I think it was about the Sin Eater, and it was all falsified. Peter brought that out, and that's why he hated Peter. And then the suit hating Peter for getting rid of it. So you had the mutual hatred. So it brings them together.
So set that up in this movie. Give me that. You could have given me the trailer hype. You could have showed me that trailer of that little peek of Venom, and I would have been very excited. And when I saw the movie, if you would have done it right and given me the Venom that I would have wanted out of this movie, I probably would have been pissed, but overall would have been happier. And let me explain.
Oh, here we go. This is the years of conversation, people, right here.
You set up Kurt Connors, or you give me Sandman, or you give me the Harry storyline. Give me that villain as your primary villain and set up Eddie just the way they do for the majority of this movie. But give me my final battle on top of that church in the bell tower of Spider-Man trying to get rid of the suit because he realizes it's not good, fighting his foe, getting the best of them, finishing all that up and losing the suit. And lo and behold, at the bottom of this bell tower is Eddie Brock. Just like the story in the comic, the suit goes to Eddie and we see Eddie become Venom. Cut to fucking black. And our next movie moves on with the Venom storyline.
Oh, it'd been a great, you see the face and then the symbiote shoots out onto the screen.
Yeah.
Blacks it all out. And then you see the Venom logo.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shuts out. And then
Spider-Man
4.
You talk about people would have been standing up fucking screaming in the theater, dude. They probably would have been pissed at first. But they would have had something to look forward to.
Actually, no, that would have been better. Nothing about Venom in the trailer. It's just you get to see Spider-Man in the black suit. So the whole entire time, you're thinking the story is going to happen.
Yeah.
The whole entire time. And we get, he fights off the Lizard, if we did Doc Connor's story, or Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
He's done. He's had to do all this stuff. Maybe one of them died.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he actually killed the Lizard or Sandman. And Spider-Man doesn't like to do that. And he's realizing the suit made him do it. He's in the bell tower. He knows that the sound makes it hurts it. It gets away. And he's done. He crawls away from it and the suit goes dormant. And then you're just like, Eddie's not even there. And we cut to Spider-Man going home. He's going back to MJ or whatever. And then you have Eddie going to church because he was a churchgoer. He was a good Catholic schoolboy.
And I love that they even set that up here. I mean, even Peter tells him find religion. They get, there's great storytelling and character setups here, but the overall story is garbage.
Yeah, it's too many characters. Venom teaming up with Sandman, the big huge fight with Sandman and Venom, and Harry shows up. I mean, now the CGI and that's all that with the big huge Sandman monster and Venom and the spider webs and all that shit. That's pretty cool shit for 2007. I mean, I was in awe of that. I mean, but like you said, I force fed it to myself because I want to like this movie. It has my favorite character. I mean, I love Spider-Man. Venom is my favorite Marvel character. And I wanted it to work. I wanted so hard for it to work, and it didn't. But like I said, me and Josh have had this conversation. Can't tell you how many times, can't count it on fingers and toes. And I still believe is exactly what Josh has said. That's the story we came up with, is that it should have been a cut to black of, you see some eyes and teeth, symbiote splash on the screen, to be continued.
And honestly, back then, we didn't have the sort of hype around Marvel movies that we do now. The after credit sequence was not a thing then. Yeah. Of course there were after credit sequences after movies, but nothing like, Marvel. Yeah. Marvel sort of adopted the whole, we're going to continue the story a little bit through these after credits things.
Yeah, you could have done that as an after credits thing, because like the symbiote crawls away and goes hides. The after credit is you see doors and you see them open, and it's Eddie walking into a church. And if you were a Venom fan and Spider-Man and you know the lore, at this point in the theater, you're fucking standing up, going, "What the fuck?"
Yep.
and then bam, Spider-Man 4, and then you're fucking probably ended up being better because it would have been in production later down the road. They probably could have made the suit look better, could have bulked up Topher Grace a little, anything like that. And it could have been a better movie and been a better Venom, better Eddie Brock too. You never know.
Well, the thing is I think the biggest thing that was a disappointment to everyone was, okay, put Venom in a movie for me, but give me more than 15 minutes of Venom. Yeah. And they don't even call him Venom. Like, they don't even develop it enough for him to have a name. He's listed as Venom in the credits, but he's never called Venom. He never says his name is Venom. Like, they don't develop it enough. I think they develop Eddie Brock plenty, but they don't develop him becoming Venom enough to justify what they do with him in this movie.
Yeah. And then the ending, how he kills him in the movie.
Yes.
Horrible. That's
always been a big problem with a lot of these comic book movies.
Horrible.
Is killing off the villains. I mean, the Green Goblin holds true. That's how Harry Osborn dies in the books, I believe.
Norman Osborn.
Norman Osborn. I'm fine with that. But like, You kill off Doc Ock in part 2. You kill off Harry. You kill off Venom. You can't keep killing off these enemies, especially with someone that is like as legendary as Venom. You can't put Venom in a movie for 15 minutes and then kill him at the end. It doesn't work.
I don't think you should have killed any of them. It should have been Ravencroft Institute. That's it.
Yeah.
They use a lot of that in the comic books, and they could have put Green Goblin there. They could have put the Sandman in there. They could have put Doc Ock in there, and then they could come back for a movie and do a Sinister Six movie later, which is maybe what we're getting here next month. We don't know.
Well, they attempted to do that with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that shit didn't work out either.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, why do we have to keep killing the characters? I mean, Batman, he puts them at freaking Arkham.
Yeah.
He stores them there, and that's why a lot of people get like, why do you just keep fighting the Joker and putting him in this place and he keeps getting out? Well, because he doesn't want to kill nobody. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man doesn't want to do that. And you're kind of getting a hint of that in this trailer going on, because they say something about all these characters died fighting Spider-Man, and I think Tom Holland Spider-Man is having a problem with Spider-Man having killed these people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I mean, they're course correcting. Vulture's not dead. Vulture's in jail.
Yep. See, there you go. Vulture went to jail.
Mysterio.
He's going to be in the Morbius movie.
Mysterio may have died at the end of Far From Home. We don't really know.
Yeah. Was that a real person you saw?
Yeah. So
we don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing a very good job there, but we're not really talking about those right now. But I mean, there's great little Easter eggs they throw in all these movies. I love when they're trying to come up with a name for Doc Ock in part 2, and they're throwing around
Dr. Octopus.
That's crap.
Science Squid.
Crap.
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good.
It's a good name, but that name it's already taken.
It's already taken. Like at that time,
like, what?
Yeah, at that time there was no like thought of Doctor Strange in a movie. But if you heard his name on screen, if you're a comic book fan, you were like, "Oh shit!" They just name dropped Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you read comics back in those days, I mean, all that stuff. Like you said, all these characters that showed up.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, these little like what's her name? Betty Brandt. Is that her name?
Betsy Brandt.
Betsy Brandt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in the movie. She's been in the comic books forever.
Yeah.
She's in the new ones of No Way Home. She's in high school with Peter.
Yeah. And the girl they cast for her is great. She was the little girl in The Nice Guys, and she's been in a few other things too. I think she would have been a better casting for Gwen Stacy than Betsy Brandt, because I think she kind of looks like Gwen Stacy a little bit.
Yeah. She does.
But I kind of want to do a special edition here of Almost Famous.
Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. I know her. Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name? That guy who was in that movie that was out last year.
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
So one thing going back and watching these, and if you're not familiar with our show, Almost Famous is where we go back and we take a look at all the people that are the background actors in these movies and kind of give them their moment to shine. And it's usually people that you've seen and you're like, oh, what do I know that guy from? With these movies, it's a little different because you see people in the background in the Spider-Man movies and you're like, oh shit, that's Octavia Spencer. Some pretty big names for now that were in these movies in very bit parts back in the day. The first one that comes to mind, because she is in Spider-Man, and I believe she's in all three of them, is Elizabeth Banks as Betsy Brandt.
Yeah, Betty Brandt. I said Betsy, and now you're saying it. It's Betty.
Betty. Okay.
But yeah, that's I liked her. Dude, she's good in this, and I didn't realize later on down the road she was in the what do you call it? The Pitch Perfect movies. Mm-hmm. But Zach and Miri make a porno.
Yep.
That's still my favorite.
Kevin Smith. What?
Yep.
But and then I mentioned Octavia Spencer. She's the one signing Peter up for the wrestling match so he can wrestle
Oscar winner,
Macho Man Randy Savage.
Dude, oh
yeah, I got you for 3 minutes.
3 minutes of playtime.
That scene plays pretty silly for me now.
No, I love it. I think it's awesome because the whole wrestling thing, him trying to make money because he became Spider-Man. I thought it was great. I got what's her name, Emily. I can never say
Emily Deschanel.
Deschanel, yeah. Zoe Deschanel's sister.
Mm-hmm.
But she went on to be Bones.
Yeah.
And did that for a long time. She's super famous for playing Bones.
Yep. Also, I believe it's Otto Octavius's assistant in there is Daniel Day Kim, an actor from Lost. Which, if you were watching Lost back in the day, you would have noticed him right off the bat. He hasn't really, I wouldn't say he's become a household name, but he's still acting in stuff today. And
I even put Joe Manganiello, however you say his name, because back then he was nobody.
Yeah.
And then he went on to be in the True Blood series. He was in Justice League. They cast him as Deathstroke. Dude, he's been in a bunch of stuff. Thanks, Spider-Man. Go to sleep.
And Joe Manganiello is a big nerd. I mean, he's a big comic book fan. He's
him and his wife. I think they both are kind of nerds.
You are a long-time and intense fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Is that true?
This is very true. I'm OG nerd.
Okay.
Yeah, back when it wasn't cool. And when I was a kid, if you played Dungeons & Dragons, you also listened to Metallica, you read Stephen King, you had a glow-in-the-dark Led Zeppelin poster on your wall, you had an Iron Maiden t-shirt, you hung out at the arcade, you read comic books, it all went together.
And I think he runs like a celebrity D&D game.
I've heard that.
I think Tom Morello and shit comes and plays D&D with him and stuff.
Oh yeah, I want to go play D&D with them.
I've never played D&D, but if I got invited, I'd do it.
I just found one that I didn't notice until this time around, and I can never. Her name is Vanessa Ferlito.
Is she
was
Mary
in Death Proof, dude?
Yeah, she's Mary Jane's friend in the second movie.
The play.
Yeah,
in the play.
Yeah.
Yes. I had to rewind. I went, oh, that's what's her name. I can go back, and I went, this. You know, yeah. Now she's like on NCIS, but I remember from Death Proof.
Yeah, Death Proof for sure. I mean, big Tarantino fan right here. I definitely noticed her from that.
But the one that I knew was in the movie, but I forgot she was because she looks nothing like her, is Lucy Lawless.
Guy with 8 hands. Sounds hot.
Yeah, that's Lucy Lawless from Xena.
Wow. She's also in Parks and Rec, and I love her in Parks and Rec. So I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can pinpoint her now. That's funny.
But even though he's a main character, I put Dylan Baker as the guy that plays Dr. Connors.
Yeah, he's definitely like an almost famous guy. He's like that guy you see in stuff, but you don't really know what his name is. I know what you're gonna bring up.
Oh, well, Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat.
He plays the principal, but I also put Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He was in that too.
Yeah. Very bit part in that.
Yeah. But the thing about him, I get him mixed up with the guy from, was it Shameless?
Oh, William H. Macy. I can see
William
that.
H. Macy. Sometimes when I see them, I get their names because back then they kind of had a similar look.
Yeah.
Their faces. I know they're different people, but when you just glance at them real quick, you're like, oh wait, that's the other one.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the not Tom Hardy guy.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can see getting those two confused for sure. In part 2, when they're going to the bank to try and help Aunt May save her house, Joel McHale is the banker. I kind of want to talk about James Franco a little bit because he wasn't the James Franco we know today back then. He was kind of a nobody. I remember him being kind of problematic. Like nobody was really crazy about the acting he did in these movies, and
so good.
Developed a pretty big liking for him years later. But
yeah, anything related to Seth Rogen and him,
yeah,
like Pineapple Express.
But unfortunately, he's taken a turn down this cancel culture stuff.
He's kind of blacklisted now. With stuff that he's done.
Which, to be fair, I mean, I from what I saw of him in these movies and then what he went on to do after these, like I would have never guessed he would have went on to do like Pineapple Express. I remember Pineapple Express is where I really started to notice him, and then his relationship with Seth Rogen. And
was it This Is the End?
This Is the End. I mean, that movie I remember like almost about to piss my pants laughing watching that movie in the theater.
Because I like it because everybody's playing themselves.
Yeah.
And then when he goes downstairs, they're mentioning Spider-Man.
Chill the fuck out, okay? I'm sure the Green Goblin can fucking afford some more bacon.
Dude, this shit's supposed to last us till we get rescued.
Wait a second. I know what happened. You guys dropped acid, didn't you?
Stan Lee is a big part of all of this. Stan Lee is the creator of Spider-Man. Of course, he's going to have his appearance in these movies. I find it kind of funny that he's always the guy that's in the middle of what's going down, like the shit that's going down in the first couple.
Saving people, like grabbing them, pull them out of the way.
But I love his appearance in part 3.
You know, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
It's a real heartwarming scene, especially for that time. And, you know, I'll touch briefly on a Stan Lee appearance here in a little while that really gets to me. But
my favorite Stan Lee appearance is still Mallrats.
It reminds me of an issue of Spider-Man I did when Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy went lingerie shopping. Of course, the Green Goblin showed up, and he pumpkin bombed the hell out of the place. But aside from that, it's pretty much the same thing.
Holy shit! Aren't you?
Oh, Stanley. Hi.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
That's a good one.
The Thing. Is this dork made of orange rock like the rest of his body?
It's a superhero secret.
But yeah, I mean, these movies were full of people.
He stinks, and I don't like him.
So we just kind of wanted to honor the stars of today that kind of came up in Spider-Man movies. So that's a handful of them for you there. If we missed any of them, please feel free to let us know who we missed and what they're doing now and kind of educate us a little bit. But those are the ones that I noticed. Now, we want to give a shout out to our buddy Roman, and if he was on this show, he would be educating the living shit out of us right now.
If our buddy Roman was on this show, this would be the 4-hour long version because he would give us the character breakdown to all of them and be absolutely comic correct. And if you disagreed with him, I feel fucking sorry for you.
Yeah.
Because he's probably right and you're wrong.
Roman will hand you your ass in comic book knowledge.
He helped me get back in the role things, helped me out with some key issues that I used to have that I had sold years ago. And man, I give a shout out to Roman, man. Thank you for getting me back into this world.
I can say there are definitely comics in my collection that I would not have had it not been for Mr. Roman. We love you, buddy.
Thanks, man. But
so anything else about the Raimi trilogy you want to touch on? I want to kind of talk about the Amazing Spider-Man a little bit. So if there's anything else you got about the Raimi movies, let's go ahead and get it out there.
I wish they would have done what we said.
Yeah.
With part 3.
So let me propose this question to you. So let's just say they did do what we would have done with Spider-Man in these stories.
All right.
The catch is you still would have Topher Grace as your Venom.
Okay.
How would you feel about that?
I think I would have been fine with it. I think you could have gave him time to develop Eddie and Venom together. And like I said, made him more comic accurate and would have been a great movie. Because like I said, we wanted to do in that. Now, who would you have cast as Carnage in this time period of actors?
It's fucking Chainsaw and Dave brains, man, because the next question I was going to ask is, let's go back to that point in time. Who would be the best Cletus Cassidy?
I'm trying to go back to that would have probably been about 2010.
2010, I can't think of any like super well-known redheads that could have done the part. The first thing that comes to mind for me is Carrot Top. Could you imagine Carrot Top as our Cletus Cassidy?
No. I don't know. If we were to wait, that kid that's in that Shameless show.
I know who you're talking to. He plays the he plays the Joker.
They used him as a Joker on Gotham.
Yeah.
That guy would have made a good Carnage.
Oh yeah.
Or Cletus Cassidy.
I can see that.
Because he does a lot of people shit on that Gotham show, dude. I enjoyed it and I loved his take or not take of Joker. I thought it was pretty cool for a freaking Fox TV show. I thought he did a good job of playing a crazy man, which ends up being the Joker, but not being the Joker. But I could see that kid. I don't know where he was in 2010, so I can't really go back. I mean, that's 11 years ago, Josh.
Yeah.
I could barely remember what I did last week.
I mean, Woody Harrelson was acting back then. I mean, we still could have had Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy.
Ooh, 2010 Woody Harrelson probably would have been better than 2021 or Woody Harrelson because he would have been younger, but a little bit closer to Natural Born Killers time.
See, Natural Born Killers Woody Harrelson was a lot like Cletus Cassidy.
Cletus Cassidy, yes. I can see maybe he still could have been Carnage in 2010.
Just don't give me the red wig. That's all I ask. Don't give me the red curly wig.
I am glad they fixed that. Thank you, Sony, for fixing. Hey, That's one time when people complained about shit, and it did get better.
Yeah.
They gave him better hair. There's still some problems about that movie. But you said you want to talk about Amazing Spider-Man a little bit before we get on here, because I know we don't want to have a 4-hour episode this week.
Yeah. Like I said, I was a big fan of the Raimi trilogy, so therefore when they announced that they were rebooting and they were going to start from scratch with a new director, new cast, all of that good stuff, I was a little perturbed at that. I was like, no, I want you to correct what you left me with these fucking movies. I want you to give me a good Venom. I want Tobey Maguire to be Spider-Man still. Like I was attached to Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and we didn't really talk about him a whole lot.
Dude, emotionally, he's a great Spider-Man, and even all that shit in part 2 where he loses his powers and stuff like that, you feel bad.
Yeah.
You really go on an emotional roller coaster with Tobey Maguire through playing Spider-Man.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing we didn't really talk about with those movies is the idea to give him the organic web shooters.
Oh, I had that in my notes. I didn't get there.
Yeah, and
that was a problem I had with it.
Yes, that's a problem a lot of people had with it. And what they do in part 2 with that kind of course corrects what they decided to do, because that was a big part of the comics is he would run out of web in certain situations.
And Peter Parker was a genius kid.
Yeah.
He was a super science nerd, and he figured out, if he couldn't web sling, he used his wit and his brain power to beat the enemy. But like you said, yeah, you ran out. You made mistakes, because that's what, at the end of the day, I know we're trying to talk about Amazing Spider-Man. At the end of the day, I think that's the part where we can all relate to Spider-Man. Yeah, he's a superhero, but out of all the superheroes that you talk about in Marvel and DC, from the beginning to now, even in the comic books, he lives a regular life somewhat outside that of he has problems. He has pimples. He's in love. He's got his heart broken. He's failing class.
Yeah.
He can't find a car. He lives in a shitty apartment, can't pay his rent. How many superhero movies do you see where they have that problem? None.
Right. And those movies do an excellent job of making him that kind of character. He's constantly struggling to pay his bills. He's
Brandt!
constantly trying to make money, constantly trying to balance work and being a hero. And that's one thing about these movies, like, being a superhero might be glamorous in the limelight, but when you take the suit off, it's not. You're
got
not
bills to pay.
Yeah, you're not making money being Spider-Man. It's not doing it for you.
Whoa! He stole that guy's pizza.
That's what I said. I mean, that's where I think I was so attached to it. It felt like, yeah, I can't climb on walls and I can't pick up a car and everything like that. But Peter Parker was relatable.
Yeah.
As just a normal person. And I think that's where, like I said, myself and other Spider-Man fans love him so much.
So when Amazing Spider-Man came out, I had a chip on my shoulder. I did not go to the theater to see it. I didn't go to the theater.
Josh talking about this. He was not happy.
I did not go to the theater to see the first one. I did not go to the theater to see the second one. I did not see either one of them until after they had come out on home video. Like I did not give them a chance. And it's because I had an attachment to the Raimi trilogy. I really loved the characters they had there. I loved the actors playing the characters. But years later, in 2021, watching these movies again for
literally like 2 days ago,
the second time, I think The Amazing Spider-Man is a fantastic movie.
Thank you.
I think, like, I was watching it and I was like, I might like this better than the first Spider-Man movie. That's a hot take, I think, but at the time, again, with my passion for the series, I was not willing to give Andrew Garfield a shot. I love Emma Stone, and I'm going to talk about her here in a minute. But I just don't think I was willing to give anything about this a chance because I was so butthurt about the fact that we weren't going to get our original trilogy people back. Andrew Garfield is fucking awesome as Peter Parker.
I work here. I don't work here. I was gonna say I work here, but it seems like you in fact do work here, so you know that I don't in fact work here.
You following me?
And I remember not liking him at all when I saw those movies, probably because I still had a chip on my shoulder. But I think he's great as Peter Parker.
Love it. Dude, that first Amazing Spider-Man. All right, this is my hot take. I think the Spider-Man look and suit in these movies is better than the Raimi trilogy.
I have a couple of issues with the suit. I feel like the head looks a little weird,
but see, this is the thing. They made him look like Spider-Man. Spider-Man is slender, slinky little guy.
Yeah.
And gets around. If you go back, like, because I just watched all the Raimi ones, Tobey Maguire bulked up. He got pretty big.
Yeah.
And I think you can see him in the fight scenes with he's got some pretty good sized biceps. To me, he's too bulky. Andrew Garfield is a wiry guy. He looks like he could be a gymnast to do the backflips and swing through the middle of two buildings and stuff like that. He looks more like, to me, the Spider-Man would be.
Yeah.
And be able to move around. And I like the suit a little better. I didn't like the gold eye lenses in the first ones. Or they were kind of the way they shine in the light, but it's also a lot of the CGI they did back then. I just wasn't a big fan. I mean, I love the suit. I mean, back then I thought, oh my God, I nailed it. But then when I saw this, I liked the suit. I liked the darker colors. It was a little more grimier. Like, hey, I wear this every fucking day. I don't have 5 or 10 of these things, and they're going to get dirty.
Yeah.
So, and he looked like he was out fighting crime every day, and he didn't have a chance to wash his suit. So
the only thing that bothers me about the suit in Amazing Spider-Man is there are certain scenes where he's doing things with his hands, and the gloves are blue, and it bothers me. Like the color, the color of the suit is a little different than what I'm used to. And that's the biggest issue I have with that.
Because you had the Spider-Man chain suits in the comic books. It was not just him. When you had Ben Reilly wearing it and other people, even Miles Morales, other people who have played Spider-Man in the comic books and stuff like that, they always change the color scheme up a little bit. And they did that with, Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man. The suit looks different than your regular 616 Spider-Man or 616, whatever you want to call it. I kind of liked it, but as I said, I just like the overall look of his Spider-Man better than I did Tobey Maguire. But I'm not saying that Tobey Maguire's was wrong. I still love it. But if I had to choose between the two of them, I just like the suit. I like him in the suit. He looks like a slender Spider-Man guy. Like, this guy can pick up a fucking car.
Yeah. Right.
Tobey Maguire was a little more buff and shorter, where Andrew Garfield looks a little tall, like he would be Spider-Man.
I feel like watching these now, Tobey Maguire brings a lot of melancholy to Peter Parker. He's always very like, oh, MJ. Like, the Peter Parker that Andrew Garfield brings is a lot more of a like, I have fucking problems, bro, and I'm trying to figure this out. Like, he's very much like, it's more dire for Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. And he seems to be very distraught about the problems he has. Whereas in Sam Raimi's, maybe it was the direction, maybe it was the story, whatever, but Tobey Maguire seems to be very melancholy in his delivery of things and the emotion that he puts out in those. It's a little dull compared to what Andrew Garfield does. But I want to get to the best part of this movie.
I'm Gwen.
Is Emma Stone.
Oh, dude.
And being the fan of Spider-Man that I am, and at the time when these movies came out, I wasn't as big of a Spider-Man fan. And knowing where the Spider-Verse went at that time, I don't know if at this point we had the Spider-Verse comics where Gwen Stacy becomes Spider-Gwen. I think it might have came later. Watching this movie now breaks my heart to know that we could never have Emma Stone as Spider-Gwen. I think she would be the perfect Spider-Gwen.
All right, this is the thing. Don't say never. Because in multiverses, that she's alive in another multiverse.
Well, no, I don't even mean storyline-wise because of where this story goes. I mean, spoiler alert. You get a spoiler alert at the beginning of all of these. And if you haven't seen these movies, what are you doing with your life? But yeah, I mean, Gwen Stacy dies at the end of Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
She died in the comics.
She dies in the comics. Yeah, I mean, Spider-Gwen is from an alternate universe. But I'm talking about as an actress. Like, again, like speculating who would be the best actor to play these roles. I think Emma Stone is so great as that character in this movie.
I would love to see her Spider-Gwen.
And like, she even like, for the people who read Spider-Gwen and are familiar with the Gwen Stacy character in those books, like, she is not drawn as this perfect embodiment of a woman. She has an awkward face. She has like a gap in her teeth. She is not your stereotypical hot comic book girl superhero.
She's a drummer in a punk band.
Yeah. And that's not to say...
With Mary Jane.
Yeah. And it's called The Mary Janes.
Mary Janes.
But And that's not to say that Emma Stone is ugly or not beautiful. Emma Stone is a beautiful woman.
Oh.
But she is a normal looking, beautiful woman. She is not one of these like supermodel, like gonna, you know, exploit every part
Emma
of her.
Stone
Like
is the hot girl next door.
Yeah. And
in
I
your
mean,
town, the girl you want to hang out with in high school.
right. I mean, she is basically the same character she was in Superbad. She's an awesome chick.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that is attractive.
Zombieland.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean,
yeah.
and if you, like I said, if you're a fan of Spider-Gwen, if you're a fan of that storyline, what they did with her there, I feel like Emma Stone would have been the perfect casting for that. But, you know, Emma Stone's older now. These movies have, you know, gone in different places. I don't know if Emma Stone would number one fit the age bracket now, because in the comics, Spider-Gwen is still a girl in high school. That's the biggest travesty here is I think they had a great casting for that character in these movies, and now we're not going to be able to do that again. But
I remember sitting in the theater watching that in part 2, which is it has the same problem as Spider-Man 3. Too many people, too many villains, too many storylines going on. But when she died, dude, I cried.
Yeah.
And you knew it was coming, because in the shots leading up to that, she's wearing a certain color coat. It's the same color of the coat she wears in the comic books when she dies.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, no, please don't do this to me. No, because I love Emma Stone and I loved her as Gwen Stacy. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to do this, aren't we? We're doing this. They're going to kill her.
And that's, you know, that's kind of where these new trailers for No Way Home is pointing your direction to, is, are they going to do that with Mary Jane in this movie? They're not. I'm going to tell you right now, people, they're not going to do that.
This is the funny story I've heard about this, is that, you know, they show the trailer, Mary Jane is falling and you see a hand reaching down and they think it miss. And they said, this is where Andrew Garfield swings in and rescues her. I've heard this thing, and because it's him coming, he says, I wasn't going to let another one die.
Yeah. I've heard that theory myself. Yep.
I've heard that theory. Now here we're on the tangent talking about the trailer again. We can't help it. We're Spider-Man fans. We want to talk about everything. But yeah, I was just like, I don't know if that's going to happen. But then again, I hope it happens, and I hope they don't release any more TV spots or trailers about it. I just want to be in the theater when it happens, and I want to jump out of my seat and throw popcorn on the guy in front of me. That's what I want to happen.
That's on my bucket list. I want to dump my bucket of popcorn on some guy's head because I'm so excited about the movie I'm watching.
And then he turns around and just throws a popcorn, and he's like, yeah, and everybody's high-fiving each other like, fuck yeah, that's what I wanted to see. So
now, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch Amazing Spider-Man 2. What I do remember of that movie is it was a bit of a mess because, like you said, they shove a whole bunch of villains in there and try to develop this story that eventually ends up not going anywhere.
All Jamie Foxx's character in the beginning of that movie is the Riddler character from Batman that Jim Carrey played.
Yeah.
It's the same freaking character.
And
you're like with the, you know, in love with our main character and oh, you're my best friend and blah, blah. I'm like, I'm watching this and I'm just waiting to play the kooky music that you hear when Edward Nygma's in his apartment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Shall we say who's our favorite Spider-Man?
So we've got our movie Spider-Man. I also wanted to see who our favorite Spider-Man comic character is.
Does he have to be Spider-Man?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think maybe like our favorite version of Spider-Man from the comics. And then, of course, we're going to close this out with our worst to first. We're going to give you our rankings of the Spider-Man films, even though I didn't get to watch all of them.
Well, I have watched them all, and it didn't take me very long to do a list. So
I'll say my favorite movie Spider-Man, if we're just talking about Spider-Man that have been in live action movies, I really think Tom Holland encompasses everything that Peter Parker needs to be on film. I think there are issues with Tobey Maguire. I think there are issues with Andrew Garfield. Some people think there are issues with Tom Holland as well, but I think Tom Holland brings a more well-rounded Peter Parker / Spider-Man to the movies. I think he is good as both characters.
Okay.
So I would say Tom Holland would be my top Spider-Man in the movies.
I'm going to agree with you.
Okay.
Because we share the same brain. I mean, I love my Tobey Maguire. That's the first time we get to see him, Spider-Man on the big screen like that. I liked that they haven't made Tom Holland grow up yet.
Right.
He's still in high school.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I had problems with the other two Spider-Man movies. They rushed him along. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, you're in high school, you're graduating. It's done.
Yeah.
You're moving on to bigger and better things. That's not how it works in the comics. I like how they're taking their time with that. Peter messes up. He has a messed up love life, just like he has in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
He's dumpster diving for parts, so he's poor.
Yep.
Just like in the comics. He's barely getting by. And I kind of like that we didn't get another origin story.
Yeah.
Because we know if you haven't been living under a fucking rock, you know that Spider-Man gets bit by a radioactive spider. There's a fucking song about it. Go listen to it.
A Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. It spins away.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that about it, and I like it. He's got the childish look. But he's got the ambition. He wants to do good. He wants to prove himself, like to Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
We first get him in the Civil War movie, and then in his own movies with everything going on. And I was kind of hoping that they would have went more with Gwen Stacy love interest instead of the MJ.
Yeah,
that's how I had problems with it. But I get it. It's cool. Is it Zendaya? Is that how you pronounce? I can never pronounce her name. I suck at pronouncing names. I'm sorry, people.
Zendaya.
But and they're an item in real life. They're dating. Yeah, I would go Tom Holland is my favorite of the three. And I do love Andrew Garfield, like you said, of the two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that's the thing is I don't hate any of them. I mean, to put them in 1, 2, and 3 respectively is because you have to, but they're all great.
Yeah, they all bring different things, and yeah.
I would not say it's not like, oh, number 3 is because you're shitty. No, number 3 is still like saying, yeah, you're still fucking awesome, bro. It's just if I had to put these in here,
yeah,
that's the way they go. So yeah, Tom Holland would be my number 1.
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, just going off of watching Amazing Spider-Man, I would probably rank them Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire at this point. I kind of found a lot of issues with Tobey Maguire's performance watching these first 3 movies again. Like
he's got some great dance moves though.
We didn't talk about that. I will go ahead and throw another hot take out there. I don't mind all that shit. It seems very comic book-esque. What I don't like is the whole dance scene in the jazz club.
That is like a whole scene they could have cut.
Yeah. I don't mind him walking through doing the pointing at the girls and all that stuff. I think that's tongue-in-cheek. It's funny. It's something Sam Raimi would have done.
I would say it's something Sam Raimi would have done for sure.
So that doesn't bother me. I kind of like emo Peter Parker, but the whole dance sequence in the jazz club, yeah, that could have all been cut.
I know we just pissed a bunch of people off.
We probably did. But
write in the comments below. Sorry.
Yeah, let us know what your favorite Spider-Man is. Who portrayed it the best for you?
Give us your 3. Like I said, we're not saying worst to first on Spider-Man because they're all great.
Yeah,
we loved all 3 of them, but that's just how we're putting them. Tell us your top 3. Matter of fact, in our list that we're gonna these next couple of lists we do, give us your rundown. We'd love to see it and then talk about it. We all love each other here. We all love the character, so no hate. Right. Nobody's wrong.
Yeah. So. And that brings me to comic book Spider-Man, and you've got many different versions of Spider-Man there. I gravitate towards Miles Morales. Miles Morales is my Spider-Man. I love him. I love that he is a minority. He is a child, basically. I mean, he's still, very, very, very young, and he's kind of like, he's sort of the reboot for our Peter Parker of this generation. He is trying to do the best he can. He's conflicted on if he can be a superhero and still go to school and still handle the things that he needs to do in life. He's got, these issues with his father hating Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be the quote unquote black Spider-Man. He just wants to be Spider-Man. There's so many different things that Brian Michael Bendis, the creator of Miles Morales, brought to that character that I think work so well. And I love that they've finally brought him to the big screen and into the Spider-Verse. I fucking love that movie, and it makes me so excited to know that it's a possibility that we could get Miles Morales in a live action movie. I mean, it's going to happen eventually.
There's a possibility he could show up next month.
I doubt that, but if that happens, it will be me screaming, dumping my fucking popcorn on somebody's head.
somebody have a camera on Josh if that fucking happens.
Right.
Kenny, have that camera ready just in case.
But as far as, comic, Spider-Verse characters are just like, are you just like, hardcore classic Spider-Man, or do you have a particular version of Spider-Man that you gravitate towards?
I mean, I love classic Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The 616 Spider-Man, that's probably my favorite. But my favorite version of Spider-Man is Black Suit Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because he's covered in a Venom symbiote. You know that because Venom is my favorite comic book character. If I had to do, he is not Peter Parker, he's not Spider-Man or whatever like that, but he still is who he is because of Spider-Man. So
right.
I would actually pick Venom. But since we're talking about Spider-Man, I'm just going to go with 616 Black Suit Spider-Man.
All right.
From the Web of Spider-Man series and the Secret Wars, all that stuff. So, but yeah.
He would be my second. Black Suit Spider-Man would be my second. Yeah. So, but I mean, with Miles, you get like all of that and more. You get the black and red suit.
And red suit. Now, if we're talking about suits,
I love Miles' suit, man.
Miles' suit and Miguel O'Hara's Spider-Man 2099.
Oh, 2099 is so fucking good, man.
Suits. Their two suits are my favorite suits other than Black Suit Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They nailed, I mean, I love their designs for both. I hope we get a Miguel.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope that happens because we got that at the end of Into Spider-Verse on the little post-credit scene.
Yeah,
of him going back. I was like, please let that happen.
That was definitely an oh shit moment in the theater for me. I was like, oh shit, it's Spider-Man 2099. I can't believe it. If you have not read the Spider-Man 2099 series, do yourself a favor and read it. It's fucking good. It's dark. It's really dark and it's just good.
Spider-Man's kind of scary actually when he.
Yeah, I mean, he actually has to like live off human blood and shit. It's crazy.
He has to wear the suit.
Yeah. But
so there's a reason he covers his face and stuff. So
well, let's maybe piss some more people off here and do our worst to first Spider-Man series. So we're not going to do a whole lot of chit-chatting like we did with our Halloween episode with this one. We're just basically going to give the rundown of what our top 8 are. Well, 8 in order. So we're going to start number 8.
Well, we're doing the Spider-Man movies, not ensemble cast like Civil War, Avengers, and all that shit. We're talking about the standalone Spider-Man movies.
Right. Now, just to talk real briefly, I love the introduction of Spider-Man in Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorite moments in MCU. Like,
oh, God, yeah.
So, not to discredit that. It is a great moment in an MCU movie, but unfortunately, it's not a Spider-Man movie. No. If we were doing, like, favorite scenes, that would be one of my top, for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I love it when he steals Captain's shield. That shit's awesome. Okay, right. Number 8, worst to first. And I'm not saying that we call these worst to first just because these are the ones we like the least, but they all have good parts of their own in their movies.
Yeah. So 3, 2, 1.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm right there with you. Mainly because I haven't had a chance to rewatch it. You know, maybe when I do rewatch it, I'll have a different opinion like I did of the first one. But right now, it's definitely bottom of the barrel for me. So
yeah, there's too many problems with that movie. But there are parts of that movie I do love, like the whole thing with Gwen Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
I love the opening scene of that movie. All you hear is this flapping, and then it opens up, and you can see Spider-Man falling from the sky, and it's just a close up of the logo, and then him moving away from the camera.
Yeah.
Like he had just let go of a web and was kind of floating through the air. That's a great opening scene. Okay, number 7.
Number 7, I'm going Spider-Man 3.
Get out of my head! We share the same brain. I'm gonna laugh if we know all. I know we're gonna at least have one or two that are not gonna be the same.
Yeah, I think
I would be surprised if we nailed all of them. So
you know, I'm thinking maybe our number 1s are gonna be the same. We just had our same 8, and 7. I think right here might be where it differs a little bit. My number 6 Far From Home.
Yes.
I just watched Far From Home recently, and it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's not as well done as Homecoming. Homecoming's still coming up on my list, so I'll talk about it when I get to it. But it's, I do really like the Mysterio twist, and I didn't, the way they portrayed in the movie, I really didn't see it coming when it happened. I thought it was
like Jake Gyllenhaal playing the role.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's a fantastic actor.
All right.
Number
5. This is where it's going to change.
Probably so. My number 5, Spider-Man.
That's what I had. How do it, dude? Get out of my fucking head.
And to be fair, I just wrote my list down probably 5 minutes before we started recording. And I think Jason
yesterday. It was my idea to do this list.
So yeah, I just watching them now. These were the main 3 that I rewatched. It's a great movie, but it's all right. Now I mean,
it's all right.
I was very jazzed for it when it came out, but now it just kind of like, it's right there in the middle for me.
And things changed. Like when we did our Halloween countdown, dude, I would have told you Halloween 3 was my least favorite movie out of all of them.
Yeah.
But things have changed over the years. So,
all right. Well,
I know what as your number 4. Dude, we're gonna have the same damn list.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Homecoming.
Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, Amazing
That's
Spider-Man.
where it changed.
Yeah, that's where it changed.
Homecoming is great. I watched it recently as well. We've been watching all of the MCU movies with our friends up here. They had never seen any of them. So we just watched.
Poor people.
Yeah, we just watched Homecoming and Far From Home and Into the Spider-Verse with them recently. So were watching them for the first time, and watching Homecoming, I was just surprised at how much I was laughing at it, man. It's a funny movie, and it just really encapsulates that young high school Peter Parker Spider-Man. And it's
again, I don't like the Flash Thompson.
I mean, he's not
annoying.
He's a background character. I don't see them developing him into what Flash Thompson eventually is. Yeah. So I'm fine with it. I mean, yeah, I don't think he's the right cast for Flash Thompson, but it doesn't really bother me that much. So,
I mean, and I had Amazing Spider-Man right here because it's like we said, I do like Andrew Garfield's version of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And since we just said that Tom Holland is our favorite Spider-Man, I couldn't put a Tom Holland movie, all the Tom Holland movies, behind everybody else. So I was just like, I'll put that one here because you're talking about middle of the road. Spider-Man 2002, Amazing Spider-Man, both still great movies. They're only one apart. You're looking at number 4, number 5.
Well, this may be just because of it being so fresh in my head, but number 3 was Amazing Spider-Man for me. Just because like I had a whole new take on this movie watching it this time. I felt different about it. I would have loved to have seen them do more with these characters and whatnot, but knowing where 2 ended up, it just seems like a lost opportunity now. But I think they laid some fantastic groundwork for the characters and the actors in Amazing Spider-Man that fell flat. But I don't know, like I was watching this movie this time going, why did I not like this so much? It had to have been the chip on my shoulder because there's really good stuff in Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, even Dennis Leary as Captain Stacy. He did a great job.
Oh, I mean, Dennis Leary and that character. I mean, I was loving it, dude. Like, and I think I was bringing my romanticism of Spider-Gwen to that too, because I'm watching this movie and I'm seeing Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. I'm seeing Dennis Leary as Mr. Stacy or Captain Stacy, and I'm like, they would have been perfect. This would have been such a good setup for a fucking Spider-Gwen, man. And like. It's heartbreaking to me that we won't ever get that, but I don't know. Like this movie left a better impression on me this time. So that's my hot take.
Yeah. My number 3 was Homecoming.
Yep.
So, and when Josh just talked about that, I like the high school years. We're keeping him young. He's coming off of helping Iron Man fight Captain America's guys from Civil War, and you get that whole thing of him talking and getting back home and all the cool shit he's done, and we get introduced to Ned and everybody else in the film. I think it's a good, fun little movie. Him learning to be Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so, and I do like the suit in that too. And he went from his old suit.
Yeah.
How do you see out of these things? Oh my God.
I think that might be the one thing that kind of detracts from the new Spider-Man movies for me, is that it's very reliant on Iron Man and the suits being something that Tony is supplying him.
That's the thing that I think I've gotten detached the further we've gone into the Tom Holland, him being a great Spider-Man, is let's get back to friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Let's get back to, hey, let's have a nice suit. Yeah, we can have some cool web shooters and shit like that, because he's a science nerding for that. We don't need Stark Tech.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. We don't need Iron Spider through every movie.
I mean, it makes for some good comedy. I mean, you know, the kill mode or whatever it is, whenever he's trying to get onto the truck. Insta kill. Yeah, like that shit's funny. But yeah, I mean, Spider-Man never had to rely on Iron Man in the books. So I think it's kind of, you know, a little bit of a downgrade that he's got to rely on this tech now in these movies. But
yeah, we understand that he's his mentor and all that kind of stuff. But let's just get back to friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We're not trying to fight everybody from outer space. I mean, that's why I kind of wanted them to kind of tone it down a little bit in those movies. Get back to fighting street level people like the Rhino and Sandman and this kind of stuff. We're not trying to fight Thanos characters every movie.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
And sort of a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon mention of Miles Morales in Homecoming as well. I mean, they don't say his name, but you've got Donald Glover's character, who is...
You ain't never done this before, huh?
Deactivate interrogation mode.
Basically, the Prowler.
Yeah, he becomes the Prowler.
And he mentions...
I have a nephew that lives in this neighborhood.
Yeah, so when I remember seeing that in theater, and I was like, oh, he's talking about Miles. I know who he's talking about. He's talking about Miles Morales.
Yeah, because you were talking about him playing Miles Morales years before this movie.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of talk about him playing just Spider-Man in general. I remember there being a lot of uproar about that, oh, Donald Glover would be a good Peter Parker. And a lot of people weren't happy about the talking about
I would have loved when we were talking about him being Miles Morales.
Yeah, that could have worked.
Before these. Dude, him playing Miles Morales when he was younger.
Yeah.
Dude, perfect casting for that. I thought would have been great. All right, well, number 2.
I think I know what both of our number 2 and number 1 are. But number 2 is Spider-Man 2. And that means number 1 is Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse. And I think everybody will agree with us if you have seen that movie.
I mean, I don't know if people feel the way we feel about it being the best Spider-Man movie, but it is by far the best Spider-Man movie for me.
Who are you again?
This is Miles, and he's gonna save the multiverse.
Yeah, man. It's the best complete
Yeah.
Spider-Man movie. I mean, it's not the fact of you get all these different Spider-Man. You get Spider-Man War and Spider-Ham and Spider-Gwen and all that stuff like that. I love the storytelling of Miles. I love the storytelling of Peter from the 616, because we're in the Ultimate Universe basically.
Yep.
At this point, and Spider-Man dies. It's a great movie, dude. That I can't tell how many times I've watched that movie, and people are like, dude, it's a cartoon. No, you need to watch it because the animation in that is fucking beautiful. It is fantastic.
Yes, we watched it with our friends, and our friend's daughter was watching it, and she was like, it's like I'm watching a comic book, and she really liked it. And I was like, well, get used to it because the entire movie looks like this. And yeah, and the animation style is fantastic. I love how everybody is over proportionate. Like Kingpin is just this giant hulk of a man with a small little head. I even like the what they did with like Goblin being this big goblin looking creature.
Well, because in the Ultimate Universe he's huge.
Yeah, and then you've got
Goblin,
you got Doc Ock as a female in this. So like pulling all these different things from the different universes and different stories of Spider-Man. But I mean, just the fact that Miles' story is central here. And we get Spider-Gwen as a sidekick.
All right, people, let's start at the beginning one last time. My name is Gwen Stacy. I was bitten by a radioactive spider. And for the last 2 years, I've been the one and only Spider-Woman.
I mean, I love Spider-Gwen in this movie. I think Haley Steinfeld is great as her in this. That's funny too, watching this movie. You get all these voices doing voices for these characters, and now those people are characters in the MCU. You know, she's our new Hawkeye. That movie brings me to tears on a couple of different levels. Like, number one, this movie came out shortly after Stan Lee died, and you get this scene of him in the costume store buying the costume of Spider-Man.
I'm going to miss him. Yeah, we were friends, you know.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits. Eventually.
That moment in that movie just makes me well up, man. Just seeing him, seeing Stan Lee shortly thereafter he had passed away. And then walking out of that movie, it was like, I was overcome with joy that I just saw Miles Morales on screen. It was so fucking great, dude.
As I said, you get 3 different Spider-Man in a movie. As far as you get Peter Parker, and Miles Morales.
And let's not discredit
Peter Parker who dies.
Let's not discredit Spider-Man Noir. Nick Cage is awesome as Spider-Man Noir. You got Peter Porker. John Mulaney is Peter Porker. Spider-Ham. He's hilarious. All of these different Spider-Man characters, and it's done so well. And even go ahead.
I was going to say, and the other part I like about it is when they go to them, when they're talking about, well, here, I'll tell you my story. You've heard this before. And they show them in their world. It is colored the way it is in the comic books, like the Spider-Gwen. The way it is, it has the smearing over it. That's how it is in the comic book, where the background has this kind of fuzzy smear looks to it. And they made her look exactly when she's in her universe.
Yeah.
They look like they do in their comic books.
And the Spider-Man Noir stuff is all black and white and Sin City looking shit. Spider-Ham comes from a very cartoon world.
Basically Looney Tunes of Marvel.
And just that the whole final battle when they're fighting together, and like Spider-Ham throws Peter the hammer to use when he's fighting Goblin and stuff, like it all just works so well together. It's so much fun to watch. And
I like Miles' suit in that movie too when he makes his own.
Yeah. And it still holds true to the core story of Spider-Man. Great power comes great responsibility. Miles is torn with that same dilemma in that. And, he has to figure out if he's going to be a kid or if he's going to be Spider-Man. And like in his universe, Spider-Man's dead. They need a Spider-Man, and he's got to fill those shoes.
Yeah. And that's the thing they were talking about, because all their uncles had died. And then his uncle dies.
Which is a tearjerker scene too, when you see the way that plays out. I mean, again, Mahershala Ali playing the Prowler in that. He's going to be our new Blade.
Yeah.
So,
but we went straight to we were talking about. Let me touch on part number 2, Spider-Man 2, because we went straight to our outpouring of love for our number 1 movie. But I want to give it for Alfred Molina playing Doc Ock. Great performance in that. Brought the acting chops to the T. That whole story of him fighting his genius and everything like that. The Spider-Man No More storyline of him losing his powers. I love the scene where he throws the suit in the garbage can and walks away. That's straight right off the cover of the comic.
Yeah, looks just like the cover. Yep.
And I love that tie-in and everything, and how he has to go through all the stuff of being normal Peter Parker and how he likes it, but he's also realizing there's something missing, and he's not doing what Uncle Ben said. I mean, he may not have the power, but the reason he doesn't have the power is because of he's making the wrong decisions. He's letting that all affect him.
Yeah.
His personal stuff is affecting him physically, and he's lost it. And then he realizes he needs to get it back because he needs to help all these people, because that's what Uncle Ben said he needed to do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, love Spider-Man 2. That's like I said, number 2. And then we just gushed over into the Spider-Verse for our number 1. I just want to give some love our number 2 here.
Yeah, I mean, and Spider-Man 2 has its fair share of issues. I mean, there's some pacing issues. A lot of the drama stuff seems to drag on a little while. When I watched it recently, I was watching version 2.1, which is something they released on the Blu-ray. And there's some extra scenes in it that, while some of them are kind of funny, they're not necessary. Like there's a whole scene of Jonah Jameson after he gets Spider-Man's suit, like running around in his office, acting like Spider-Man. And I don't remember that in the final cut that I saw.
It wasn't. It is the 2.1. And that's the other thing we didn't even talk about is J.K. Simmons playing J. Jonah Jameson.
He's great. He is
perfect
awesome.
Freaking casting. You're talking like RDJ, Iron Man, Chris Evans is Captain America. Dude, J.K. Simmons is J. Jonah Jameson.
Yep.
And he's been J. Jonah Jameson through all of it.
Yep. Even the new stuff.
Even the new stuff. That's how great his casting was. We can't recast this character.
Yep.
We have to bring back the same guy. So I think that's fantastic. We didn't give him any love earlier. So, and I know we just went through this. I'll talk just right at you. Who's your favorite Aunt May?
Favorite Aunt May. I like Sally Field, but there's a lot of controversy around Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, but I like her. I agree that she's young, and they've recast younger people for characters, and it's worked and hasn't worked before, but I kind of dig Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. I like how her being a younger person kind of gives a little bit of a different take on the character.
Yeah. I think it's kind of funny is every Spider-Man series, they've made her younger. Aunt May.
Well, definitely. I mean, Sally Field wasn't a.
Yeah, but Rosemary, what's her name? Rosemary Harris or something like that. Whatever her name was.
Yeah, she was a lot older.
She's a lot, but she was more comic book accurate too.
Yeah.
Of the Aunt May we get. That's why I kind of like her because she's comic book accurate. But I do like Sally Field as.
Well, I like Lily Tomlin as her too, and Into the Spider-Verse. She's kind of spry in that.
Yeah,
she's not in it very much, but.
Yeah, I like her. She's kind of quick-witted in that one too.
Yeah,
I like that. And I talked about Spider-Man 3 being the highest grossing Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
That movie made $894 million in 2007. Let's do inflation rate. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And it's run 809. Even today, I mean, even before COVID, you made an $894 million movie. You're doing 5 sequels.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays, but I did the math on those just real quick. I mean, this is the 3. We had Spider-Man 1 did 821.7 million. Spider-Man 2, 789, 894.9. Those 3 movies put this money into Sony's back pocket, $2.5 billion.
Yeah.
Into Sony's back pocket.
And that's not to mention the Amazing Spider-Man movies or any of the Homecoming stuff.
Yeah, so that's the thing. We made $2.5 billion, but we're gonna fuck up the Venom story in part 3. We don't fucking care. We're not listening to Josh and Jason's idea and making the correct fucking movie. So,
and they're going the same route with No Way Home, because while I'm excited to see it, I'm going into it very cautiously optimistic, because I got excited about seeing Venom in the 3rd movie and they let me down. We might get to see the other Spider-Man in this movie, but for how long? And I'm not saying they need to be in the whole movie, but it's one of those things where it's like, are they going to do it right? Or are they just going to shove all this shit in because
want it.
Because money,
Okay. All right. Here's the other, if to our people, like I said, spoilers as usual. If you saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage, the multiverse fucked up in a post-credit scene of Venom going to a different universe than where he was at, showing up in the Tom Holland Spider-Man universe. So could he possibly show up?
That is the bigger question for me, is
because why would they put that at the end of Venom 2 when they know their Spider-Man 3 is about to come out, and now you have put Venom in the same universe as Tom Holland?
And will they do it wrong or will they do it right? Honestly, the best way they could do this is it was a post-credit scene in Venom, make it a post-credit scene in No Way Home.
And then the total hype for the next trilogy.
The next, it's like, we're giving you what you want next go around. Now, I don't know who's under contract to come back. I know there's a lot of talk about Tom Holland is talking about how he's, not under contract to do any more movies. I think
he's not, but he said he would love to, but he is not obligated to do any more movies after this one.
But I think the best course of action for bringing Venom into this universe is to give us the post credits. I mean, I would rather them do it that way and do it right and give us what we would, a full story of the Spider-Man and Venom than to just throw him in as another secondary character that he's fighting at the end of this movie,
Yeah, because I even threw speculation about the whole fighting trailer. Somebody said that's Venom punching the lizard, and I was like, "Don't do that."
Yeah, I'm not putting my money on that.
But like I said, a post credit, putting him in there as a teaser, that sounds like a fun idea.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
not. But then seeing where it goes from there, because I mean, I know he's going to do other. Tom Holland may not, but I know that Marvel and Sony have a lot of story left for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
As far as who's going to be taking the mantle forward, I mean, I'd love to see Tom Holland stay, but I know money talks, bullshit walks at this point in time.
Well, I mean, if they continue to make good stories, I can see it going for a while. I mean, they kept Robert Downey Jr. around for quite a long time. Now he is
how long Hugh Jackman played Wolverine?
Yeah, I mean,
20 years worth.
Robert Downey Jr. is a very seasoned actor. He knows Hollywood. He knows how that shit goes. I mean, I can't say the same for Tom Holland. I think he's a smart kid and's got a good head on his shoulders. But, is he gonna be that young guy that's got that mentality of I don't want to be pigeonholed as Spider-Man forever? Robert Downey Jr. has done plenty before Iron Man. Now it's like, yeah, I was Iron Man, but I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, but because of Iron Man, he has a career because his career went to shit because of bad decisions. He had nothing. And the studio didn't even want him as Iron Man when John Favreau wanted him.
Now you can't imagine another motherfucker in that role.
Exactly. Only Robert Downey Jr. could be him. The same thing goes with Captain America. The same thing with Hulk nowadays. I'm looking forward to the She-Hulk series.
Yeah.
We'll get some Hulk back and Moon Knight and all that stuff. I'm stoked where Marvel's going. So
I just watched the first episode of Hawkeye. I'm enjoying it. One episode in, I'm going to go watch episode 2 as soon as we're done here. So
I will be doing the same. I didn't finish all of episode 1, but I'm pretty happy with that so far. And that's a short one. We only get 6 episodes, I think.
So
I think it's what I read.
Well, I think that's going to do it for Spider-Man talk tonight. And as if you couldn't tell, we are not excited about the new movie coming out.
There's a Spider-Man movie coming out next time. What?
So let us know what you thought about our takes about the Spider-Man, the Raimi trilogy. Let us know what you think about the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the new trilogy that's around. Give us your thoughts on all of that stuff. Leave comments for us. We'll definitely talk to you in the comments section. If you are listening to us for the first time, this was the VHS Files. And until the next time, be kind. Rewind!
Spider-Man does whatever a Spider-Man does. Can he swing from a web?
You've been listening to the VHS Files podcast.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe and drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast.
It was fun.
Send your questions, comments, and movie suggestions to vhsfilespodcast@gmail.com.
You sick fucks, you've seen one too many movies.
Don't you blame the movies!
Follow us on all social media outlets at VHS Files Podcast.
Movies don't create psychos!
Check out our YouTube channel for more content.
Movies make psychos more creative!
Thanks for listening.